Okay, now we're going to take a look at the menus in the program. Good place as any to start would be on the Ultra Fractal menu at the top here. Obviously on Windows on Windows machines you won't have this option. You'll find things like Preference under Edit, etc. Okay, on the Mac we have our About, which you find in Windows under the Help menu. We have About Ultra Fractal, which gives us our version number. Also our licensing information. So here we can see I've got Creative Edition, the version 5.51, the release date, and my licensing information. Okay, so I'm going to close that. Next menu down is, you've already seen the keyboard shortcut for this is Command comma. Okay, enter license we looked at in the previous lesson. Services, not really much. I don't really use these too much at all. These hide, because you can hide something and then to bring it back you've got to go to the dock and click on it all over again. So I'd kind of tend, unless you know you're going to know what you're doing with these and use them. I don't use them, so I'm not going to cover them. File options, okay. Ultra Fractal is a little bit different to, say, image editors and other programs you've used. And as we actually mouse down, you'll see why. Because under New, you've got basically 5 options. The only thing really that we're interested in here for the duration of this course is Command N, or New Fractal option. Okay. These other 4 relate to sort of scripting, programming. If you write scripts or write your own fractals, or you copy snippets, say from the UF mailing list from Ron Barnett, for example, REB. Ron posts from time to time snippets of code, or other people sometimes they post sort of the actual fractal formula they haven't published to the database, and you can copy and paste it into one of these, into, for example, in that case it'd be the fractal formula file, and save it into a custom made fractal. Okay, and you can open it that way. Let's have a look at this command N though, to open New Fractal. Okay. As we saw briefly in the previous lesson in setting up, in the public we now have all these options here. So if you click on DMJ, which is Damien Jones, for example, you can see a whole host of fractal formulae in here. Incidentally, this flickering that you're seeing on screen, there's nothing I can do about that, because that's to do with the actual recording software in real time. Occasionally it just causes flickers like this, so I'll try to do my best to reduce that throughout the duration of the course. But basically, you can select a fractal type, double click on it, and it'll open up that fractal type in a new window. We can also open fractals from, if you go to this formula, and I think we saw this in the previous lesson if I'm not mistaken. We have this icon of this disk on top of a folder here. If we click on that to launch the actual library browser, it'll bring up the same information, so you can open your new fractals that way as well. Be careful though, you have to have the formula tab in the layer properties selected to bring up this menu. If I choose cancel here and I open outside, okay, inside and outside here are the colorings, okay, in Ultra Fractal. We'll cover them in another lesson, but just to show you the difference. If I click on there, it'll bring up colorings instead of the formula. So if you're confused as to why you're not getting the formula, it's because you haven't clicked on the formula tab. Next up we have duplicate. Okay, this can be quite handy. Say you're working on a fractal. I do something like this. I zoom in. Okay, and I apply a coloring or something to this. Okay, and I want to basically work I want to save this quickly and work on another fractal. All I need to do is this, Command D, and it'll bring up an exact duplicate of what I'm working on. You know, and then I can go ahead and sort of go F4, move the gradient, Command 4, move the gradients along, change the gradient, okay, and I still, you know, just how I don't like that, I can go back to, by just doing that, don't save, closing the file, I go back to where I was and I can start again on this duplicate. So Command D is a shortcut I urge you to use quite often, learn it and use it. Much quicker to do this, okay, than to do this file, duplicate, you know, it's kind of 3-4 steps. You know, you're married to the mouse if you keep doing that, and it's kind of, you know, it basically inhibits workflow. It's much easier to learn the shortcuts, and you know, you can work seamlessly. And I devise that for really any graphics application you work with. Okay, so next we have open. Okay, so again, if you have you know, if you have something saved, you can go in there. Say, okay, I'm going to go, because we've nothing really here. It's a fresh installation. We could go into formulas. Okay, nothing really. Not a lot there really. You know, if you basically saved off a file with the Command S, you can go back in and open it for the as you would any document really with the Command O. Let's see, open recent again. If you've something in history, okay. What's after midnight? Okay, this is something I opened. I opened yesterday myself. In between sort of the introduction tutorial and this one. Okay, I'll show you where that is right now. I mean, if you ever have, let's bring this back to. Okay, I can go Command Z. Okay, to get back to the default, I can go Command Z or Command Y to get back to where we were. Okay, so that's undo and redo. Okay, we'll cover that as well. But say, for example, you want to get back to the default setup. Okay, you know, I think I may say this in future lessons. For me, sometimes it's quicker just to quit the program and relaunch it. Okay, but you don't need to do that. What you can actually do is hit Command B to bring up the param browser. This is the parameter sets browser, which we'll cover in another lesson. But in the examples UPR, sitting right there, we have the default sort of fractal with its default gradients, etc. All you have to do is double click on that, and it'll bring us back to the default setup. Okay, so two options: Command B examples, double click on the default, or the other thing is to Command Q, quit the program, don't save anything, and just relaunch the application. It'll bring us back as well. Okay, so Command W will close the classic example here to demonstrate close without closing the application. I'm going to close the fractal window with Command W. Okay, I'm now going to hit Command B without changing the focus to another application on the desktop. That will bring up the browser with the param set again, and in examples UPR, just double click on the default. Okay, I must have clicked too many times and opened the duplicate copy. So just once, okay, we'll bring up the default fractal. We have, okay, I've just shown you the browser, Command B, Command S to save the fractal. So okay, let's Command S to save the fractal. Okay, we'll save it on the desktop, and we'll call this default. Why not? Save. Okay. Now we can demonstrate Command O. Command O. Okay, if I go to browse to the desktop, I have default UFR there. Okay. So I'm a yes to overwrite it. Okay, that'll bring me. It'll overwrite basically what I have there, whatever it was. So I've got the default open again. I can open recent. Let's Command W to close it again. File, open recent. Okay, because we've opened it recently, desktop default UFR, just click on that, and yes, and it opens the same fractal again. So normal new open and close behaviors there. Browse we've already seen. Save a copy, save all, so you can save all your open ones, save a copy of what you're working on. Okay, that stands to reason. Save parameters. Okay, to save parameters is Command A. So if I go Command A and I want to save that fractal I have on screen, I can save it in a parameter set. I could create a new set here, which we will do in a future lesson. But say we already have a set here, for example, examples. I could basically just save it into this. Think of this as a folder, okay, where you can save designated fractals. Okay, so you can say you're working on a bunch of newtons, for example. You could put newtons in here, and you've got this little briefcase just to quick launch a particular newton. Okay, so. Save parameters, export image. Export image basically just exports what you see as kind of a snapshot of this image you see on screen, with its size and its properties, nothing more than that. How to print. This is a help file, okay, which I'll leave you to read yourselves and at your own leisure in your own time. Okay. We will deal with rendering briefly at the end of the course, but really there's nothing to it, As I said, that basically brings up a help center pane, okay, with a lot of information pertinent to printing. Okay, so I'm going to close that. As I said, I'm going to let you guys read that at your own pace. Update public formulas we've looked at in a previous lesson as well. Okay, now let's have a look at the edit menu. Okay, undo and redo. Again, I showed you briefly undo and redo, okay, via the commands. So say we were in something like this as we were a second ago. If I go Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, brings me back to where I was, okay? You can go back in time. Command Y brings you forward in time. Command Y, Command Y. Okay. So that's the undo and redo. Cut and copy, okay, relate more to clipboard operations. For example, here, if I have a text editor open, okay, I'm just going to briefly explain this. Let me see if I can get text edit open. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to pause the video for a second here, just while I get it. What I'm going to do here to demonstrate the copy and paste functions of the program. So I'm going to make this fractal window a little bit smaller, okay? I'm going to make the application window a bit smaller. Okay, so working with this and the text edit open, which I've just opened, what we can do is make sure you've got the fractal window selected, okay? You can go to Edit Copy, okay, or alternatively you can press Command C on the keyboard. Okay, click on the white space in a new document in your text editor. Alternatively, this could be a post in Facebook or DeviantArt, okay? And if you just go Command V, okay, or right click V, it'll paste the information basically that this fractal is built on into the document window. Similarly, what we could do is we could go ahead and change this fractal, okay? So we've gone a few steps into it, okay, and we decide, okay, that's not really what I want. We could go back. We've saved this. Basically, what I'm saying, the clipboard, okay. What happens is when you right click and click copy, it saves the information into a kind of a temporary buffer, like a memory space, for pasting into another application. But in Mac, unless you have a Windows as well, unless you have like a dedicated application to memorize those buffer operations, what it would mean is you then go ahead and copy hit Command C on something immediately after, you're going to lose the information. You know, how do I explain this? Okay, we've Command C. Okay, we've already pasted it into the document here, so we can go Command copy. Okay, click on the Fractal window here and Command V to paste that information back. Brings us back to where we were. But say we had gone Command C. Okay, this was a fresh document, and then we went, say, for example, if I go to the Applications folder, I go right click. Okay, I've got to get the text active here, so I've got to click again. I right click, okay. Okay, not happening. Okay, I go on Command C on there, okay. Click in the document and paste. What it's copying is the last piece of information you copied to the clipboard. And that was Applications folder and not the Fractal information. So be careful. There is a program I use called Jump Cut, which basically, if you hit Command C, it will basically memorize all of those. It's kind of a storage area for all those Command C operations, and you can program it for 20, 25, the last 25 Command C's you've done. Great application, free, and sits up in your status bar. So I'd recommend it. It's very, very handy. Very handy to have. So that's basically a quick explanation of Command C, Command V, and if you like, this buffer known as the clipboard. Okay, I'm going to close the text editor, show you something else. Okay, I don't want to save it. Supposing we want to save the image. Okay, we've got edit, copy image. Okay, now if we open preview, and then we go Command N, okay, in preview, which is file. Okay, what it does is file new from clipboard. This is Command N is a bit different in preview. If you've got an image stored in the memory buffer, okay, in the clipboard, and you hit Command N on preview, it'll open that image. Okay, so this fractal image is now open in preview. Okay, so I'm gonna close preview, Command Q, don't need it anymore. What else have we got? Edit, copy formulas. Okay, edit copy formulas pretty much does the same as Command C from what I can see. Maybe the coders and the programmers know a little bit more about the differences there. But if I've tried copy paste with that, and it's the same. I get the same information. I copy the formulas to text editor, and then from text editor back into the program, and then I end up with the same fractal as we just did a minute ago. So I think select all then would be, as I said, I think I've given you, I showed you that as well. Just it copies everything or selects everything in a document, okay, and then you Command C, Command V that. Start dictation special characters I'm going to leave you guys to look at your own pace, okay. Okay, what I have here next up, okay, is the view menu. Okay, I was just doing something there because I accidentally closed this. So we got view, okay. We have, actually before I go into that, let's have a look at some of the options here, okay. Up at the top here you've got mouse mode. I want you to keep an eye on this fractal mode window here on the bottom. I can now actually maximize the application window again. I want you to keep an eye on this fractal mode panel down here, okay? I could actually make a bit more space here. If I go on the mouse mode and I click in the image, okay, nothing happens. If I double click, okay, it zooms in kind of to a certain increment, okay, a certain degree. If I'm going to command Z. If I click drag and drag a rectangle, okay, see what's happening down here? It's basically highlighting this area. If I then double click in that, I zoom in at a much faster rate into this area, okay? So that's what basically, okay, I've been using the mouse. If I use the rectangle, the same thing, okay? It just draws a rectangle on screen, okay, and then you can resize the rectangle. Okay, whichever method you prefer. I much prefer to click, hold down the mouse button and drag to drag out the rectangle from the inside. To me, it's kind of giving me a set size rectangle and then dragging it in. It's a little bit more, takes a little bit longer, okay? This handle up the top allows you to rotate the view, okay? If you click drag up, okay, it centers over this part of the image, and I can drag in. See, watch what's happening in the fractal mode window down the bottom, okay? And then if I double click, okay, it rotates and zooms into that point, okay? This third option, and I said these three buttons are also mirrored down here in the fractal mode window. This third one is what's known as a Julia switch. Now you can click on that, or you can click on F7, okay? Either one. And watch what happens. See what's happening in the fractal mode window when I actually move the mouse over the image now? It's bringing me up what is known as a Julia. If you look in the fractal mode now, that's kind of a classic Julia shape. Okay, what you will see in the formula file, okay, for Julia is something a bit more akin to this, something a bit more like that, okay? I'm not really interested in Julia, okay, at the moment, so I'm going to cancel out of that. The gradient browser we're going to go into in depth, okay? So I'm going to head to basically, you can bring up the gradient browser this way by clicking on that, okay? But what I am hoping that you will do is you're going to hide this and you're never going to be looking at these, okay? I want you to learn the shortcuts. I mean, there's a number of ways you can bring up the gradient browser. That's one of them. But the way I want you to learn is just by hitting F4, nothing else. F4, and there it is. Okay. You know, we'll cover this in another lesson, but F1, beg your pardon. You see, it's if I go F4, okay, I think you can go, the gradients are randomized, yeah, control. So if I go control 1, okay, control 2, 3, 4, okay, they'll bring up gradients options, but we're going to cover those in you know, in depth in the gradient discussions, okay. So just remember that again, F4, very important, learn that, very handy. The next one, okay, only, you know, when you've done the image, you like it and you want to render it and make a picture out of it. You can click on that, you know, cancel. I'd much prefer you go Command R, okay. That'll bring up your options. There's not much to this dialogue really at all. And it will be actually explained towards the end of this course, just briefly what some of the options are, covering transparency, you know, lossiness, etc., and aspect ratio. The anti-alias, not so much. You know, I've never had a problem in 7 or 8 years of using ultrafractal with jagginess or sharp edges. You know, I leave anti-aliasing on normal. And you know, renders fine every time. Okay, save parameters. You know, I kind of briefly alluded to that previously, okay, which was the Command A, if you remember. Brings up the parameter sets dialog. Okay, if you remember in examples UPR, there's the default. If you like, the default fractal with its default gradient, etc. Default properties, okay. you know, ideally the purpose of this window is you can basically create a new collection, okay? I don't know if you want to call these folders or collections, but they're collections of fractals. Say I set up one here called Newtons, for example. I could just sort of save Newton type formulas in here, and you know, I'm going to cancel this, okay, and then I'm going to hit this button, which is the browse, which is Command B, because the browser. I can then just go and open my collection and click on whatever image I want to open, okay. So Command A, Command B. So from left to right, we've got okay, these guys are just mouse actions. This is F4, Command R, Command A, Command B. Okay. Let's have a look at the toolbar. Okay, I'm not going to right click for a minute. I'm going to go View, Customize Toolbar. Okay. Basically everything that's up there is already included. You know, everything here is already included, and that's the default. You know, I mean, I don't even bother with this at all, but just to show you some of the options. Use small size. Okay, watch what happens. Icon smaller, text smaller. Okay, still for me this takes up too much room. You know, I must add at this point I'm working on a relatively small resolution, small screen size of 1680 by 1050. So the newer iMacs and stuff, this isn't going to take up that much space at all. So, you know, entirely up to yourselves. The icon and text, you can make this icon only, or you can go text only. Okay. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and set everything to its default. Click done. Okay. Since I don't use it, I'm going to right click and just go hide toolbar. Okay. Maximize it. And this is how I like to work. Okay. Remember again, there's F4, Command R, Command A, Command B. Okay, that said, let's have a look at the fractal menu options. Gradient F4 we've just looked at. Okay. Reset location. Okay, let's have a look at this, because there's two ways of doing this. If I click zoom in, okay, so get back to something like we had earlier on screen. Okay, there's two ways I can actually reset the location. If I go into Fractal, reset location, brings us back to square one. Okay, let me go. Okay. The other way is in the layer properties panel, because we're going to be looking at this kind of shortly as well, is in location. Okay, there's a kind of a double arrow pointing inwards icon down here. By just clicking on that, it will do exactly the same. Okay, so reset location, or this double button here. Fractal. Okay, we've got, again, this is kind of doing it. I'm not sure how, you know, with this double click mouse thing, I've never really figured out how, okay, if I double click in, I hit command, okay, double click, I zoom out. Okay, if I double click, zooms in that increment, command double click will zoom out. Okay, so that's basically doing exactly what zoom in and zoom out are doing here. Okay, full screen, command F. To escape, escape button. Okay, so again, just okay, the benefit of knowing some of the shortcuts here. Let's have a look at this for a sec. If we're in full screen mode, when we're just exploring in full screen mode, okay, now I'm going to hit command double click, will zoom me back out. Okay, double click will zoom me in. Click, drag, okay, double click will zoom in much faster. Okay, what else do I want to do here? If I go command Z, bring me back to where I was. Okay, just a few basic commands. That's the value of it. Escape. Okay, and I'm back into the workspace. So fractal. Okay, normal mode. Let me see. So, okay, select mode. That's okay. Select mode and switch mode are again what we're looking at here in the fractal mode. Okay, so that's select is basically. Let me see if I can demonstrate this. Okay. Okay, so basically it's the rectangle. Okay, so again, what we're calling, if I bring back the toolbar for a sec, oops, I don't want that. Basically what we're calling the select mode is the rectangle here. And what we're calling the switch mode is this kind of, this double thing here. So I'm going to go hide toolbar, okay? I'm going to bring that back to where it was, resize. Okay, so F6, okay, I've got it mapped to something slightly different, okay? I've got it mapped to something on my recording software. So F6 effectively will give you the rectangle, the F7 will give you the Julia mode, okay? So, or the Julia switch mode. Render to disk, Command R, again we've just covered. So much of what's in the fractal menu is on the toolbar. Okay, window, tool windows. This corresponds to, okay, what I call them are palettes. Frederick calls them tool windows, call them whatever you want. But what they are effectively are these guys over here. Okay, I'm just going to drag one off for a minute. Okay. And if you see, if I actually drag it back to the right, a kind of a blue rectangular space comes up. When that comes up, okay, I can just release the mouse and it will dock. I mean, this area over here is called the dock. Okay, and you can actually hide it by drag clicking. Okay, and bring it back by drag clicking the other way. Okay. So that's basically what the two windows are. Okay, if have a look again, you've got shortcuts here: F2, F3. Okay, our friend F4 again, which is the gradient. Fractal mode. Learn these. I mean, you can turn off the fractal mode window with F5. Okay, again, I've got that mapped to something else. Okay. Okay, but with F5, you'll see during the course of the tutorial that you can actually hide these guys and bring them back as you need to. Let me see what else we've got. Sorry, yeah, that was, yeah, because I'm doing it wrong. I think it's Shift F5. Yeah, Shift F5 will hide and bring back the Julia switch. Shift F3 will hide and bring back the fractal properties window. Shift F2, okay, Shift F2, the layers properties window. So they are the window tool windows, okay. Minimize command N. Okay, minimizes to the dock. Okay, I've never seen that one before. Never used it before. So I'm not sure. Command H is hide and Command M is minimize. I don't see the difference between those. Is zoom. Okay, again, I'm thinking that's. Let me have a look at this again for a second. Zoom. If I go window, zoom. Okay, window. Okay, window zoom. I think is doing. Basically, let me see this for a sec. Custom toolbar. Done. Okay, then I'm going to hide the toolbar. Okay. See, it's like that. Okay, I think it basically zoom is just zoom is the application window to full size, not full screen but full size. Yeah. Okay, and I think window bring all to front is, you know, if you've got windows in the back, it'll bring them all to the front. So basically that concludes the menu section of this tutorial, with apart from help, okay, but help, as I'm leaving it up to you guys to explore. Pretty much everything you saw at the splash screen at the beginning is included in here. If you lose the splash screen for any reason, you can come back in here. You can access it again. I think so. What's new? Okay, no, it's let me see, keyboard shortcuts, what's new? There's a lot of good help information in here, the tutorials, etc., accessible through here. And the Ultrafractal website, direct link to the website, the online formula database, which we looked at in setting up, and formula reference, more for the programmers. So that's it for the menu section, and in the next section we'll carry on with the palettes.